I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. So today, believe it or not, we're going to be dabbling in a little bit more magic, but probably not in the sense that you're used to. As I'm not really going to be covering, for example, like theurgy at the moment, or for example, maybe messing around with occultism. Instead, what we're going to work on that's magic related is mob spawners. So I'm actually needing a few items, basically blazes. I'm also going to need wither skeleton skulls and many others for the future of this mod pack. And so that means we are going to have to tap into something that I've been needing to get into for a while, and that is Apothic mob spawners. Now my plan is to, for example, put these mob spawners inside of these towers. Like that's going to be my ultimate plan right here, is to have these other remaining 3 towers be utilized for that. So now back into Joker's lair. By the way, I have got a couple of questions about this. One is, why did you go Joker themed? That's besides the point. But another one was, where is this located? And it is actually directly underneath the castle. Like that is exactly where it's at. So yeah, I just went straight down from the direct middle. But anyways, I did go ahead and set up some templates. I have the ability now to auto craft mob mashers, and this is just why it's just so powerful having yourself some auto crafting. Like just having the minimum, the bare minimum is definitely worthwhile. Like I only have 2 of these, by the way. Like 2 of the co-processing units. You don't really need a whole lot of them early on. But anyways, we're actually after some spawners, right? Some actual magic, which like I said, is going to take place upstairs. So I gotta go out and find myself some spawners. But believe it or not, we do have a spawner that is already in our inventory. Now, we can't use the Ender IO spawners. These, by the way, are spawners that you've probably gotten, and including these spawner scrap, you get them whenever you break a spawner without Silk Touch. But if you break one with Silk Touch, by the way, which is really, really handy with the spell book, you will get yourself a spawner. And it does have some basic stats that are associated to it. And thanks to Apothic spawners, we can actually modify these stats. And we're going to put that to good use today, especially in these small spaces that we have here. And also, what the? So now let's modify that break spell real quick, just to make sure we can pick this up. And keep in mind, extract is how we can do this, or you can just put Silk Touch on a pickaxe. It's really easy though with the extract here. And if we also put item pickup on this, then we don't have to worry about it. So we project, we also hit a break, and it causes the break to Silk Touch and picks up the item and puts it in our inventory. Like we cannot beat that, right? So let's head to the fortress and let's use this on probably one of the best early spawners to grab. And that is of course the Blaze spawner. So shift right clicking allows it to be activated a little bit easier. And there we go. We have ourselves a Blaze spawner. And I think there's probably another one lingering around. These are some of the best to just grab early on. Yes, I do know there are better spawners in the other, but we're not there yet. Ooh, and over here in this, there's another spawner. This one is also a Blaze spawner from the looks of it, inside of these bastion towers. Now for the spawner areas, I've gone ahead and used these towers. And so the inside of them is kind of dark. Well, it's supposed to be dark, that is, if I actually had all of the tinted glass put in like I'm supposed to. Of course, I miss things, but it should be 100% dark in here. There should not be any light technically getting in when all of this is closed like this. It looks like there's a little bit of light up here somehow. I don't know if maybe there's just a hidden light, probably. Aha, I found the culprits. There's mage lights right up here. Okay, so now all of the light is gone. It should be absolutely dark in here, at least for right now. But I am going to go ahead and leave this area open. But what I really want to do is I just want the mobs to sort of spawn a few blocks above the ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, I think would be pretty good. But notice we only have a little bit of room to work with. Spawners by default spawn in a radius of 4 blocks outside of the spawn position in all directions. So it should spawn 4 blocks out this way and also 4 blocks up and so on and so forth. But we can modify these spawners to only spawn like 2 blocks out, or in this case, it looks like 3 blocks would be a little bit bigger of a range. They should not spawn, for example, inside the stone pillars. So I'm thinking maybe we can just go ahead and place a spawner in. Now, I may have just made a mistake, right? Because it's going to be on. So a comparator might be a good idea to already have made. Just like this. And then we just want to right click that on there, right? And that's going to stop the spawner. This is just a mess. Let me clear this up. by the way. The R spells are so powerful. Okay, so now that we have a comparator on it, we can give it a redstone signal to turn it on and off. That's super important. So that way we can control this mob spawner. Now, if we're looking at a spawner and we hold down control, we can see the stats. For example, the spawn count, how many mobs are going to spawn, how many max entities can spawn, and also the spawn range. That's the one that's important for determining how far out these mobs will spawn. Very, very important. Now, it's set to 4, so how do we actually reduce? Well, we use quartz. So if you hold quartz in your offhand, believe it or not, you can actually reverse this. So if we look at the uses of a mob spawner, we can see all kinds of different things, and spawn range is one of them. +2 on spawn range. It can go all the way up to 32 blocks. Okay, so that means a piston is actually what we need to lower the spawn range. But we can also increase the spawn range. So it's something to note, by the way. If you see this, it's at 4. If I go ahead and right click one, it now went up to 6. If I hold the quartz though, it's not going to consume the quartz, but it is going to reduce this down to a spawn range of 2. And honestly, a spawn range of 2 is probably going to be fine. I honestly wonder, can I actually get this to a spawn range of 3? Like, what if I, for example, take this all the way down with some pistons, right? I knock it all the way down to 1, and then I raise it by 2? Then that allows me to get to 3. Okay, that actually is a way to do it. Now, there's still a lot of other stats that we can modify. For example, the spawn count, how many entities will spawn at once, which is fantastic. Whether the mobs make noise, which is kind of important. We also have activation range, which we're probably not going to have to worry about too much because of withers, nether stars anyways. But we also have the max number of entities, which is definitely, we probably want that number high. Some other things, how quickly the mob spawner works, and that is going to be with sugar and also with clocks. Now, sugar is going to be one of the things that we could make a little farm for. Actually, we should be able to get sugar quite easily with our essence. That's just something else to note, is we can use all of this to also farm essence, meaning that we can keep more meaningful mobs inside the spawners. And something else to note, you can change these mobs. Like, these mobs are not permanent. The blaze is not permanent, and we can basically put just about any mob in here. So I kind of recommend making an almost universal spawner that allows you to kind of change it on a whim. Now, I am going to need sugar, which means I need sugar cane, which I guess we can make a ton of right here. This is, by the way, just 1. I want to set up 3 of these spawners today. But we can bring this down only so far. It looks like down to 20, but we can also bring it up if it is too fast. And that actually could be an issue. Clocks are going to be needed to get the minimum spawn delay down. I'm going to need quite a few clocks, which is quite a few gold. And if I take this all the way down, oh boy, it can go down to 20. Like I said, I honestly feel like this could be too fast. And as far as gas tiers go, we can actually handcraft these, by the way, with catalyzing glands from our creepers, which is kind of nice. And wow, they do not have entities capped at all. Does this mean that we can bring this all the way up to 32? Oh my goodness, 32 entities per summon attempt. Now, to remove the activation range where it just spawns indefinitely, we need a nether star, which we'll get eventually, just not right now. And let's go ahead and put a lever on this. I'm actually kind of scared to turn this on. I do want to have my mob crushing stuff set up first before we turn it on though. And for that, I want to try out these entity conveyors. I've actually never used them as far as I know. They're kind of like dark, they're kind of like the dark plates. So if you're familiar with how vector plates worked from Dark Utilities, this is going to be very similar, right? You can see it pushes me in the direction that it is facing, right? And that's going to be kind of important. And it does seem to be pretty quick. So I think this is actually going to hold up quite well. It looks like it sends all of the mobs directly to the center, which is kind of what I want. I want this to go right to the center. And then in that center, I want a mob masher. I just got to be very careful with this, by the way. I want to be able to access this and put in a couple of upgrades too. So the upgrades that we're going to put in here is going to be max sharpness, and creating patterns for this is so handy because handcrafting all of those swords really becomes time consuming. And then possibly 10 looting upgrades, which is pretty cheap this go around in all the mods. And I don't know if it's going to get changed in the future, but if it's going to be anything like all the mods, 9, they did at some point add these looting upgrades and required them to actually have a looting enchanted book, but not this go around. So a whole lot easier. It really matters considering there is another upgrade that you can add to a spawner that is absolutely diabolical, echoing. And this essentially gives the mobs levels of looting, which is just beyond ridiculous. Like, we're talking levels of mob drops that you might not even be able to handle with most mods. So let's go ahead and put our upgrades in here, and then we can pull the lever. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pull the lever, Crunk. There we go. I'm gonna close this up for right now, and I kind of want to see how wow, it's not going as fast as I thought it was gonna go. Honestly, I was expecting them to spawn, but maybe... No, there it goes. Maybe it takes a minute. Oh boy. Okay, yeah, it just took a minute. Holy smokes, that is spawning like crazy. All I added was the looting upgrade, and already this... Okay, we got to turn this off. Well, in that short period of time, I now have several stacks of blaze rods. Don't know if I'm going to need blaze anymore. Also, definitely got a lot of the blaze instruction manual books and a ton of molten cores. That was very, very quick and very efficient. And it was at this point that I've realized these spawners are really, really broken, because I mean, that was just barely any effort, and this doesn't even have echoing on it, right? Echoing like multiplies the drops by literally a factor of 5. It was what it seemed like last time I tested it. So how are we going to handle these drops? Well, I think this is where we'll have an actual excuse to use the item collector here from Just Dire Things, and also an experience holder. And I want to put them on the corner here. I think this looks kind of cool. But what I want to do is on the item collector, we might want to drop the amount of ticks that this operates on to 1 for this particular case. I wouldn't recommend this for most things, but just judging by how many mob drops there are, this might be a great use case for this. Now all I have to do is just kind of get this in the center. Now, after setting all of that up, I did discover something new, and that is that there is a way to toggle a redstone signal, thank goodness, in this pack. Now, this is a redstone remote from the redstone pin mod, and apparently you punch to bind to a lever, not right click, but left click. You punch it, and that will bind to a lever, and then we can toggle the lever on and off. So this will actually be a good time to test out our new collecting system, which should be able to collect a ton of stuff. And I did also put a void upgrade in here, but it is not, or should not be, currently configured. We'll set this to allow, I do believe. Actually, I need to reset this card. I think I can reset it by putting it in my inventory. Yes. Let's reset it to default, which shouldn't void anything until we put the things to void in the list. So let's try this out. If I right click this remote, it should start spawning the mobs. Okay. So they're going to start spawning. I turn my magnet off. It's kind of loud, but yes, this is going to collect the XP, which it did. And it should also collect the items. Right? So the items are now being collected as well. And it looks like instantaneously. Perfect. There is no issues with the mobs in there. We do have mobs spawning up here, but honestly, this is not a huge deal. But I was trying to big brain here, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can put like an item frame on this. And then I put this in here, and this is our remote to be able to control these places, right? So I can control this location by just popping that off, and then going ahead and turning it on or off if need be. And same is going to be for all of these spawners, giving us a little bit more control. Now, something I can do is I can, for example, take this lever right here, and I'll go ahead and put this on the side, and then I'll rebind this location, and I can go up 3 blocks by placing blocks like this, and I can definitely take this all the way up to the ceiling. But that should also help prevent those mobs from spawning like that. So yeah, all of those pesky mob sounds, by the way, let's go ahead and silence this. Now, another thing you can do is give these mobs no AI, and that can be a little bit more friendly for servers depending on what you're spawning in here. Just be careful giving no AI to, for example, withers. Yeah, they can have some issues. Don't ask me how I know. Now, that is to say if withers can be mob swapped, because not always can you actually mob swap, for example, a wither, or use capturing to get a wither spawn egg. And in this case, it may not work. It may be blacklisted. If you guys can let me know down in the comments below if you've tested that so far, because as of right now, I am not spawning a wither in my base. I did get a couple of questions from you guys, which I definitely have seen in the comments. And I thank you guys, by the way, for all of the fantastic comments. One of the things was, can you use regular glass so that way we can like see the mobs actually working in here. And to be able to actually do that, you can use a soul lantern, which is pretty darn cool. And this now makes the spawners no longer require light for those mobs who do have conditions that require light. And I do believe that if you do use another item, which is a conduit, that will also remove conditions. And I'm almost positive that the lighting is one of those conditions that it can remove. But for example, blaze spawners already apparently have that light condition removed, right? Because they don't really require light to spawn. So it just really depends on what mob you actively have inside. But yeah, I can totally get rid of this glass if I want to and use something else. So now there is one thing that I think could help me in my journey here, and that is actually making a conduit. I would really love to have a conduit just to simply remove the spawning conditions, and this is going to allow me to make mystical agriculture seeds that are for things like fish and things for like squid and things that we're going to really want access to, which are going to be super duper helpful for making even more conduits. But I need to find a drowned, so I think it's time for me to head to the ocean and do our first mob swab. And I know just the place to get this from. If you look on here, you'll actually see a little pyramid looking structure, and this definitely has drowned. I'm going to grab this one, and I swabbed it, by the way, with a mob swab. This allows us to essentially make a spawn egg for free. Well, at the cost of a chicken. So heading back over to the base, which by the way is just so cool that we can use the portal gun to get back so quickly. What I'm going to need is a few buckets, and we can grab out XP from our XP obelisk that is up above. So let's head up here, and we do have tons of XP in here, but something you're going to note, if you try to pull XP out of here with a bucket, well, it's not going to work because you have to only have one item as of right now. This might get fixed in the future, but yeah, that's something to note. But you can definitely use the jumbo tanks if you still have them laying around to collect your buckets of XP. And to make the chicken feed to make the egg, you just need to have your swab, which this one's the evoker. Let's go ahead and swap this out for the drowned, and it makes GM chicken feed. So let's find a chicken and let's rip this chicken. I guess before I end this chicken's career, I might as well swab it. And then we just right click on here and voila. There we go. We now have a drowned spawn egg that I can use inside of these spawners. So let's go ahead and take advantage of one of our newly set up spawners. Let's see, that one's a blaze. And by the way, I did go ahead and I think all of these, I put all of the same upgrades in. Just got to be kind of careful moving around here. There we go. So yes, these are all max upgraded now. And I can go ahead and swap this out. So now this is drowned. And let's take the items out of here. And I believe I can just click this and turn it on. I think I linked these. Let me make sure. Is it linked? It is not, so I got to link this one. But other than that, we are ready to do business here. Oh boy. Close that up. And spawn in the drowned. And it's going to be a lot of drowned. Now, I don't have the upgrades inside here yet. Ooh, but I probably should get those. So I got those upgrades placed inside. And of course, I have more for the other machine. This should start gathering nautilus shells. That's the only thing I really want from this setup, right? Is just nautilus shells. So I can go in here and set this to block. And this is going to block it from voiding this. And so now all of these items should get destroyed. The only thing that should stay in here, making this filter a lot better, is just simply nautilus shells. Everything else just needs to go. And then we get to sit back and just watch the nautilus shells roll out. So now that I have enough nautilus shells, after while going and basically eating IRL dinner, I had enough time and came back to quite a few nautilus shells. So I don't think I'm going to need those nautilus shells for a while, so I can probably turn this off. But what this does do is this allows me to make spawners that are way different than normal spawners, right? So this can now support things like squid and a bunch of other things as soon as I put this conduit on it. So now some things I should get spawn eggs for is going to be squid. Now I, for some reason, am having a hard time finding cod, but what I'm not having a hard time finding is actually sharks. And it does seem like sharks drop cod, which is one of the drops we need. So boop, there we go. I now have some shark DNA and a boop and a boop. God, this never gets old. And so I now can change this, for example, to a shark spawner. And the conditions, by the way, are 100% going to be met. and it should just start spawning sharks. Yeah. So now you may be asking yourself, Chosen, like, why are you farming sharks? And also, why are you farming squid or going to farm squid? Well, for good reason. I want to make special seeds, and this is going to provide us, once we get these seeds crafted, with unlimited hearts of the sea and also unlimited amounts of the conduits and nautilus shells, believe it or not. Honestly, who knew that this spawner episode was going to heavily involve, believe it or not, utilizing mystical agriculture? Man, I bet these jars smell absolutely atrocious, by the way, being filled with cod. With just a teensy bit of crafting, I now have myself an Enderman seed, and these were all like mob seeds that I definitely need to get crafted up. So now I have Blaze. I also have Enderman. That is so nice. But like I said, the big ones to me right now is getting, honestly, squid and fish, which is kind of huge, believe it or not. It sounds crazy, but is going to be very helpful for our mob farm endeavors in the future. And now we just need to grab out the essence and add it to our storage. And a little boop here and boop there. So now not only can I make every type of fish, but I can also make nautilus shells. And then I can use said nautilus shells with more of this essence, including squid essence, diamond, and prismarine. And now we can just craft up Heart of the Seas, which that is really one of the few ways that you can really get these things. Well, outside of just looking for shipwrecks over and over again and hoping that you find the location. So now that I've got that out of the way, I can start to work on some other really powerful sort of mobs to have spawning in each of those spawners to keep a nice little supply of a few things. And one of them is going to have to be wither skeleton skulls. I don't know how much I could recommend getting this set up, so that way we just have a nice abundant supply of wither skeleton skulls being produced. And there's actually an upgrade that will allow us to literally produce more skulls than typical, called the beheading upgrade. And so I'll just simply, there we go. All kinds of different noises today for picking these up, and I have that ready to go. By the way, we also have ourselves an evoker as well that we did capture from our mansion. So that was a pretty nice grab, right? And this is going to help us. And let me kind of explain why we want to have a vindicator, an evoker, and withers ready to be used. And that's because whenever we end up eventually going to the other, we're going to want some protections, and the evoker and the vindicators spawn so much in that dimension from what I remember. And this go around, I want to try to avoid that as much as possible, and I want to use some special ways to get around there. And I think using some charms from Reliquary, which we should be able to craft with these in our spawners, oh man, this is going to make it so much better, as we are going to be basically invisible to them. Of course, I've got to be able to spawn them, right? That's definitely one of the things we need to do. So I'm thinking on this one, we can hit it with a wither skeleton spawn egg. Perfect. And we want those beheading upgrades, right? So this is just going to add to the upgrades that are already inside. We should be able to wrap this up. And for the most part, this is going to be ready to go. Let's go ahead and pop this off, turn this on, let this spawner rip. And I only think there's going to be a few things that we really need to void from this. So I'm thinking with the wither skeleton, we really just want the skulls. So I'm going to actually get rid of most of the outfit stuff. And yeah, hopefully this will just go away. There we go. And I would keep the coal, but I think in this case, I'm really just wanting wither skeleton skulls. So I'm going to be deleting most of this stuff. And this is the nice part about this. You can just filter and get literally the only thing you want. Actually, it'd be easier, right? If all I did was just flip this and I just put the skulls in. Because now everything but skulls will be voided. And we don't probably have to leave this running long. As you can tell, there's a lot of wither skeleton skulls already building up. And eventually we'll be able to farm the wither digitally. But this will do well for now. Now this one thankfully is already set up, and this one is already a vindicator. So I think, do I have this one linked? Nope, we just have to link this one up. Which, by the way, this is a vindicator, right? If I remember correctly. Yes, vindicator spawner. This one I did find naturally in the world. And let's go ahead and bind this. There we go. So now that lever is bound. Got to be careful. This could easily kill me by walking into this. But I can go ahead and turn this on, and it should start spawning as well. I don't think there's any conditions that have to be met for this, right? Nope. It just takes a hot minute to activate. I think it has to get through its initial timer before I had modified it. And then once it gets through that initial tick timer, that's when it starts spawning like crazy. Spawning like crazy, it really does. And yeah, this is the stuff we want, these Vindicator charms. Okay, so now that I'm getting Vindicator charms, I think what I'll do is I'll flip this, and the only thing I really want to keep are Vindicator charms and emeralds. And on this one, we definitely want to put a compacting upgrade in it. I can't stress enough how powerful a compacting upgrade is. Oh, wow. I think on the compacting upgrade, though, it voids the blocks if... Oh, that's interesting. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to go ahead and add all of the emerald block conversions just to make sure we can keep those. But keep in mind, the big ticket item right here are these Vindicator charm fragments, which we can turn into Vindicator charms. And you can see right here, Vindicators can't see you with this, which is going to be incredibly important. This one, of course, is going to be a little bit more chaotic as we have to deal with totems, which are going to be non-stop spawning from this thing. So I guess we can go ahead and turn this one on. Let me put this back. Bam, perfect. And this one should be linked. This was one of our initial ones. And now turning it on, we'll spawn these guys. And I think we have to go in here real quick and modify this. Look at all of the totems of Undying already building up. There's also Grimoires of Evocation, and we already got an Evoker Charm Fragment. So, of course, these are the things we want to keep. Honestly, at this point, I don't know how many totems I actually want from this. That's going to be kind of an issue, right? I do want totems, but, I mean, we only want so many. So, I actually have an idea. Right here, I can go ahead and on the back of this barrel, I think this is on the side. I placed it like this. So on this side, we can place ourselves a drawer, and inside the drawer, I will void it, and we can specify specifically totems going in here like this, and I can use a advanced hopper upgrade, and it's going to automatically send it to here. Oh, that works perfect. And actually, you know what? While this is running, I might as well also keep my emeralds. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. So I'll go ahead and make sure all of my emeralds get placed in like so, and yeah, we should be good to go. So now to turn this puppy back on, and there we go. This is going to really start shredding through these things. And okay, I think this is set to allow, right? So we need to change it to block. There we go. Okay, so now it's going to start getting rid of everything else. And yeah, that's the only thing we want is totems. And look how fast, by the way, the hopper upgrade is. It's going to send to here. This is going to fill up. And there's only 32 in it right now, and I think that's fine. Oh goodness, are these things also spawning? I don't know why that's spawning, but they shouldn't spawn those. So yeah, you know what? This actually might be a good one to put no AI on. Because that no AI should definitely prevent evokers from spawning, or Vex. Come on, Vex, I don't need you here. Quit. So now the only thing left is, well, nether stars. I don't have enough nether stars right now, and I don't technically want to go farming them just yet. So I think I'll actually have to wait till next episode for that, where we're going to probably push more towards getting some more power and also getting some nether stars automated. That is going to make life a whole lot easier, and we can do this all with hostile neural networks. But that, like I said, we'll have to wait until next episode. Till then, I'm just going to have to stand here and, well, watch as our charms grow. And guys, if you did enjoy today's episode, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and of course, give this video a huge thumbs up. Hopefully you appreciate all of the builds and all of the cool things I've tried to show thus far. And I do appreciate you guys watching. You guys are absolutely the best. And with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to none other than Hannah. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Thank you all so very much. And of course, I look forward to seeing you in the comment section or over on the Discord or even on Twitch. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.